Tomorrow is one of the biggest days in crypto history. The upcoming 24 hours are critical for the future development of the industry as a whole, and yes, we may be seeing approvals for the Ethereum ETF soon, which I will break down incredibly comprehensively with the latest and breaking news. But another critical event is the vote for the FIT24 bill that will provide much needed regulatory clarity for the United States. But before breaking down all of this and the cruciality of the upcoming 24 hours, let's jump straight into the price of Bitcoin. It's going to be a different type of video, ladies and gents, because I have spent literally the past few, like 4 or 5 hours, putting all the facts together and building a narrative on what I expect will happen with Ethereum. And trust me, you're going to be shocked. So I will get to that in just a second. Make sure to smash up the like button. You guys did a fantastic job in the past video. Let's see if we can reach 800 likes and, of course, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Well, since the last video, Bitcoin perfectly broke out from the ascending bull flag that we drew, and we reached almost perfectly to our target of 71.3K, which on the weekly time frame was a crucial level of resistance. As you can see, we created that kind of demand level on the 25th of March this year. But going back to the daily time frame, Bitcoin is having a small reversal, and the reason for this is because the S&P 500 is also seeing a little bit of a downturn, and this is due to the news on the FOMC minutes. The dollar is climbing back up. We'll likely get a bullish crossover here on the MACD, and we could go up and test 105.2. And I think in the short term, Bitcoin will likely head down a little bit more, potentially going and retesting the 67.8K level, because whenever the Dixie goes down, Bitcoin has an inverse correlation. Dixie is the value of the dollar. But why is this happening? Well, if we quickly jump and look into the outcome of what happened with the FOMC minutes, which gives you an indication of what may happen during the FOMC press conference, we can analyze that. If I'm able to find it, we can analyze that the Fed officials are disappointing. They're saying that the inflation data of Q1 was disappointing and that they will be holding rates for a longer amount of time, which is terrible for the markets because holding rates for longer keeps interest that you pay for your loans at a higher level for longer, meaning you cannot borrow money and stimulate the economy. That's why this is bullish and the value of the dollar is continuing to rise. So Bitcoin, again, in the short term, not too bullish. And if we look at one of my personal favorite analysts, John Bollinger, he posted this morning. He doesn't post a lot, but Bitcoin on the daily time frame was able to break above the upper Bollinger Band. He's not too happy with this candlestick formation, and he does expect a correction in the short term, but although he is bullish on the macro, and my analysis is completely adjacent with that, because we had a bullish crossover on Ichimoku on the daily time frame. We're above the cloud, and I think Bitcoin in the macro is looking incredibly bullish, but in the short term, a small correction would definitely be healthy for the markets. And in terms of my trades, I will be getting into that very, very shortly. But remember, Bitcoin has had a bullish crossover on the stochastic on the weekly time frame, and the last time this happened was when Bitcoin was at 26K, so do not forget about that. Ethereum was forming an ascending triangle pattern. If you were able to watch the Moon Show, me and Da Vinci said, look, we're going to break down from here, retest, and potentially go lower. I will look at my Ethereum position and to kind of not rely on TA so much to decide what I want to do with my ETH long, rather on the facts that I have gathered here. So stay tuned for that. Leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. I want to open a position here on Dogecoin, although it will be super, super risky. I will probably do like a 3x leverage to start off with, but Dogecoin is forming a textbook inverse head and shoulders pattern. Shout out to one of you in the Crypto Kids community on Telegram who posted this chart. Thanks to you, I was able to find it, but it really does look like the same thing happened. It probably will end up happening like Solana. We had an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and Solana just absolutely skyrocketed. If you remember from the live stream, we said that Solana will probably get rejected and that I would take profits on my Solana, which I did at 186 or actually 183. We went $2 or $3 more higher, and then we saw that rejection. In terms of a long position for Solana, I'm waiting for a correction back down initially to $169 because after every single inverse head and shoulders pattern. Solana tends to have a correction and then go absolutely parabolic, but I'll leave that trade for the next video. In the meantime, I want to open a very small long position on Dogecoin. You guys know I love it. I have a lot of it in terms of spot holdings, and especially with what's happening to X.com, I think Dogecoin will most likely continue rallying towards the upside. But this is the update with our Ethereum position on the $10,000 trading challenge, up 61.5%. And our Bitcoin long is up 154%. So massive congrats to the crypto kids community. But in the meantime, I'm going to open a super risky Dogecoin long position. Let's do 3x leverage, and let's just start off with 500 USDT, and then I can scale into this at a later point in time after we get a confirmation that the market is looking bullish once again. So I'm going to do a market price, and there we go. So now we should be having a long position on Dogecoin, not too big. It's only a 1,500 USDT position, and I will be updating you on this on my next video. So again, stay tuned. And if you want to be trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like I am here, then you can go and sign up to Bitflex using the link in the description down below to get up to 68K worth in rewards. But that concludes our analysis for Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Dogecoin in terms of a technical analysis perspective. Now we can get into what the hell is happening in the next 24 hours and why is it so important for the cryptocurrency industry. But let's start off with let's go into the actual events taking place. So today there will be a vote for something called the FIT24 Bill. Now, what is the FIT24 Bill? It's going to take a minute to explain. So if the FIT24 Bill, there was two types of bills proposed over the past few weeks. We had the SAB 121 and the FIT21. So SAB 121 was the bill that the Biden administration wanted to veto after it was held in Congress. And this was a bill allowing financial institutions, including investment banks, including even Coinbase custody, which was super interesting, and different banks to be able to hold Bitcoin and crypto assets as custody in their own institution. Now, it was interesting that the Biden administration wanted to go against it because, well, a lot of ETFs hold billions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin in custody in Coinbase, right? So if this bill was not passed, then potentially the Bitcoin ETFs could have come to an end. So there was a little bit of scare over on Twitter, but it looks like Biden has removed his veto from the bill, and we will likely allow institutions and banks to hold Bitcoin and other digital assets as custody in their firms. This is important because, well, the ETFs can continue to function, and as the reserve exchange or as the reserves of Bitcoin on exchanges continue to deplete, I think banks will continue buying up that Bitcoin. And eventually, I think their aim is to get rid of crypto exchanges and just make Bitcoin fully reliant on banks and financial institutions, which is a bad thing. Hence, I am super bullish on DeFi, but I will talk more about that later on. I'm investing very heavily into DeFi projects. I've bought up Uniswap, and I'm buying up basically a bunch of other DEX tokens because I think they will be doing very well. So that is SAB 121. But what is the FIT20? So yeah, 121 and FIT21. Sorry, it's a bit confusing. So the next one is the most important. And what that looks into is actually basically creating a bill that differentiates and defines the role of the CFTC, which is the commodities. So the CFTC is the regulatory body that governs commodities trading, and the SEC. So the SEC looks at securities, and the CFTC, just to summarize, looks at commodities. Now, we will be getting a bill that will exactly define the role of these two different regulatory bodies in crypto and digital asset framework. Because currently there's always a fight between the SEC and between the CFTC saying that, okay, Bitcoin is a commodity security, Ethereum is a commodity security. Once we get this bill passed, there will be a much higher amount of regulatory clarity for the cryptocurrency industry, and it will be able to develop and mature at a much better rate. So that's happening today in the upcoming few hours. It looks like a lot of senators, a lot of Congress people are pushing for this bill to get approved. And once it does, you will see on crypto Twitter many people celebrating. Will this impact the price of Bitcoin? Unlikely, because it doesn't mean anything in the micro, but in the macro sense, it will enable the development and innovation of crypto to prevail in the United States. So that is one important event that is taking place. And with that, I think another token that I'm actually super bullish on, and I'm shocked that I'm saying this, is going to be XRP. Because if we get this bill passed, and if the CFTC takes over, the CFTC takes over the regulation of crypto and digital assets, well, then most tokens will become classified non-securities. In fact, 95% of them or 99% of them will not be securities, because if we look at Ethereum and look at the facts of Ethereum, we had an ICO, we have reversible transactions, we have constant changes on Ethereum, and we have staking. And all of these things are absolute no-goes for the Howey test. But we're getting an ETF, we're getting a spot ETF, we're getting this bill approved. So clearly then XRP will not be a security, and most tokens will not be classified as securities. So XRP could potentially see a run in that case alongside a lot of other altcoins. Hence, I think this summer will be altcoin season just because of that. Now to the long-awaited segment of this video, and that's actually discussing how the approval process will work for Ethereum. So in terms of the approval process, we have a division of basically 3 different stages. Number 1 is the 19B4s. Number 2 is the S1 filings. And the final one is the actual launch of the ETF itself. So what is a 19B4 and what is the current update there? Now on Twitter and everywhere on YouTube, you're seeing that the Ethereum ETFs are going to be approved. Well, that's not necessarily the case yet. The case is the 19B4 has a deadline, specifically Van Eck, the first issuer that filed for the 19B4. Their deadline is tomorrow, May the 23rd. And now we had a 180-degree shift in the SEC that nobody expected. And suddenly, in the past 48 hours, usually you're given a 2-month period. So issuers are given a 2-month period to prepare for a 19B4 filing. But well, issuers have now had the past 48 hours where they've not been sleeping. Deja vu with the Bitcoin ETFs where everything was kept last minute. People are not sleeping and they're trying to push the 19B4s, because what the SEC usually does is when they give the go-ahead, they give the go-ahead for all ETFs at the same time so that people have a fair chance. So tomorrow is the Van Eck deadline, and the 19B4 is basically a very easy period compared to the S1s, where you finalize who's the authorized participant, so who's the market maker for the ETF, what are the fee structures going to be looking like, etc. So things like that. And there isn't usually much back and forth with the SEC. There's like 2 different rounds, there's comments, they refile, etc. They update it, and boom, it usually gets passed. After the 19B4, then we go into stage number 2, which is looking at the S1 filings. Now, this is more detailed, because the 19B4, it's just like an exchange thing. You look at the CBOE, the New York Stock Exchange, wherever the ETF is listing, that is primarily for the exchange itself. But the S1 filing has a lot of back and forth with the SEC. So at this point, you're looking at company financial data. You're looking at all the risks related to investing in this ETF, and if the firm is stable, etc. It's usually used for IPOs. And to prepare for an IPO, companies spend 2-3 years preparing all documents, etc. So it's like a full financial audit of each of these issuers to be able to understand if the risks are, to kind of weigh the risks between investing for these Ethereum ETFs or whatever ETF is launched. So S1 is a lot more demanding. Usually it can take anywhere between, the Bloomberg guys are saying 2 weeks to 3 months or 4 months. And I think the longer the S1 takes, the better for Ethereum, because the launch is probably going to be disappointing. We're looking at comparisons between the Hong Kong ETFs. So in terms of how much investment went into Ethereum compared to Bitcoin, in Hong Kong, it was 15%. If we look at the gold ETF and the silver ETFs, it's a 15% split between gold to Ethereum. So the kind of data we have is suggesting maybe 1 to 2 billion in inflows in the first 6 months, according to Bloomberg, but I personally think 5 billion. And that would be pretty sufficient, but the market will be disappointed. I think that is the reality. So leading into and going into the final day where we have the Ethereum spot ETF launch, I think Ethereum will continue to rally, hence why I'm not closing my long, just like Bitcoin. Bitcoin rallied 88% from the point of the first news about the ETF until we reached the final approval day, and Bitcoin kept going higher until the actual launch itself. So I think the same thing will follow here. That's why I'm not closing. I'm not going to give you a price target because it's going to be based completely on speculation. So I'm going to refrain from that, but I think I am still bullish on Ethereum until and if, by the way, if we get the launch, because there's still a chance that we do not see a launch. But the S1 filing can take a long time. You usually have a huge time where the SEC comments something and the issuer says another thing. And I think this can go into the end of summer potentially, because during summer, a lot of institutions are on holidays and you don't have the entire task force working on this. So it can be extended for a long amount of time, but with the weird nature of the Ethereum ETF approvals and how everything has changed in the past 48 hours, we may even see them get approved and launched in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but it won't be anywhere before that. It will be at least a 2 to 3 week process. So that is the final thing that I'll mention for today's video. Today we have the vote on the FIT24 bill, and tomorrow we have the 19B4 approvals, hopefully, fingers crossed. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know it was extensive. I will make a full summary video tomorrow for actually not a summary video, but a summary kind of text on the Telegram community. And I will share it with the newsletter as well, probably. So stay tuned for that. Link is at the top right-hand section and down in the description down below. But finally, tomorrow I'll make another update and see what's happened with the FIT24 bill, 21 bill, and everything else. And just very quickly before I end off, it was crazy because yesterday we saw, Trump, he initiated his website where you can actually donate to his campaign using crypto. And that is pretty damn crazy because this is a president, it's the first presidential candidate allowing crypto to be used. Oh, I'm not sharing the right screen. First presidential candidate allowing to use crypto as a form of donating to his campaign or her campaign. And it's crazy. I mean, a lot of politicians are taking different approaches. We're seeing, President Biden flipping all of a sudden, because the reality is 51 million people in the US hold crypto. And that is a huge percentage of the vote. It's a huge percentage. Like, it is a massive percentage. And in such a tight race between Biden and Trump, obviously they're going to try and fish for as many votes as possible, especially if you look at the crypto demographic. A lot of these people are single issue voters, meaning they can change their vote based off of just a singular issue. And that's probably going to be about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies overall. So again, another massive thing. And look, we can also mention that IBIT has officially taken over. The flippening has taken place between IBIT and Grayscale in terms of how much Bitcoin is held under asset management. So we finally had that compensation between those two firms. But guys and girls, thank you so much for watching. I know it's a long one, but tomorrow is an important day. So I hope it was definitely worth it. Take care, guys, and bye-bye.